When Senator Klobuchar asked Attorney General Pam Bondi one simple question about DOJ independence, Bondi's refusal to answer exposed something far more dangerous than evasion. It revealed a Justice Department that now takes direct orders from the White House. What you're about to see isn't just political theater. It's the moment America learned its top law enforcement officer prioritizes loyalty to Trump over the Constitution.
Amendment, DOJ in American history, as you know. But we want to keep guns, as you said, where they should be, in the hands of law-abiding American citizens, while keeping them out of the hands of criminals and gangs. Since January 20th, the ATF and FBI have seized more than 30,000 illegal guns.
I have 10 minutes.
30,000.
You have given these statistics, and I truly appreciate those statistics. But what I was just trying to get at was something where maybe we could find common ground on a bill that you actually defended in court in a state, which Director Patel seemed open to, and that was looking at, could we at least raise the age to 21 of the purchase of an assault weapon federally, while states look at banning these weapons overall, given these little babies that this gun is used to kill. So we can talk about it later, but that was my question, and you don't want to answer it.
No, it's pending litigation, Senator.
Okay, but your views on this is not pending litigation. So I want to get to the independence of the Justice Department. At your nomination hearing, I specifically asked you to provide assurance to every member of this committee that the Justice Department will only follow the facts and the law, and the White House will play no role in the cases investigated or brought. You stated in response, this was you, politics will not play a part in my decisions. And you also said the Justice Department must be independent and must act independently. Do you believe that you have upheld that commitment?
I absolutely have upheld that commitment, Senator. I pledged that I would end the weaponization also of the Justice Department, and that America would once again have a one-tier system of justice for all. And that is what we are doing in this country.
We saw this with the president directing an investigation prosecution of Chris Krebs, the former head of cybersecurity, Lisa Cook, who is a current governor of the Federal Reserve, Director Comey. And the president, and I know you have said that you will not discuss discussions you've had with the president about Comey. Is that correct? That you won't testify here about that? Because I was going to ask you if you received advice, instruction, or request from anyone at the White House to direct the department to engage in any investigations, prosecutorial actions, including decisions not to investigate or prosecute anyone.
I'm not going to discuss any conversations.
But then how about the Truth Social post on September 20th, 2025, in which the president said, we can't delay any longer, Pam, using your name, not bringing criminal charges, are killing our reputation, his words, and credibility. And then goes on to tell you to prosecute a member of this committee, to prosecute the Attorney General of New York, and to prosecute James Comey. Do you consider that a directive to the Justice Department?
Senator Klobuchar, President Trump is the most transparent president in American history, and I don't think he said anything that he hasn't said for years.
Okay, it has been reported that you initially pushed back against requests by senior Trump administration officials to push out or fire the acting U.S. Attorney in Virginia, Eric Siebert, who's a conservative Republican, who made the decision that the evidence was not there to prosecute Comey. What made you change your opinion?
I am not going to discuss personnel decisions.
Okay. Is it true that the career prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia found that there was insufficient evidence to bring criminal charges against former Director Comey?
I am not going to discuss pending cases because Comey was indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia by, I may point out, one of the most liberal grand juries in the country.
Okay, let's go on to other firings or terminations. Last week, the Justice Department fired at least 2 senior attorneys in the Eastern District of Virginia, including the office's National Security Chief, Michael Benary. It is reported that his firing came following criticism from a right-wing social media commentator who wrote, "One can only assume he was part of the internal resistance in the Comey indictment." In fact, he did not work on the Comey case. Instead, he was working on pursuing justice for service members killed in Afghanistan. How does firing a 20-year national security prosecutor enhance public safety?
Senator Klobuchar, I'm not going to discuss personnel decisions, but the personnel issue that I'm having right now is that all of my agents, all of my lawyers are working. My agents are on the street working without a paycheck because your party voted to shut down the federal government.
Unfortunately, the House isn't even back here. They're 18 days off the job to even meet with us to come up with a resolution that we would like to discuss with them about saving people's health care. Let's move on to the Antitrust Division. Did you authorize your Chief of Staff to overrule top officials in the Antitrust Division to settle the challenge to the Hewlett-Packard Enterprises Juniper Networks merger?
Senator Gail Slater runs my antitrust unit, and she is doing an excellent job on many, many cases. As you know, that is a pending case.
Okay.
In any merger, just to clarify, in any merger, Senator, there is a deal struck with our office and with the corporations involved, but then that also goes to a court to certify in any merger. In any merger, it's a multi-step process.
Okay, I
and
will
that
ask some
process
further
is still pending,
questions
Senator
about
Klobuchar.
antitrust. I just had one other thing. DOJ can now take the extraordinary step of subpoenaing journalists. Has the Justice Department issued any subpoenas to journalists under the updated guidance?
Time has expired.
Okay, I'll ask
You
those
may
on the record.
respond, Ms. Bondi.
You can respond, she said.
Oh. Senator, my office in April restored the Justice Department's longstanding norm on this issue. It was AG Garland who had deviated on the media investigations policy, allowing self-identified journalists using this self-serving status as a shield against being held accountable for endangering our nation's security. We have taken that policy back to the norm, and I can't comment on whether we have or have not, or do not have pending investigations.
Time
Senator
has
Klobuchar.
expired. Senator Lee, you're recognized.
Attorney General Bondi, thank you for being here today, and thanks for your service as Attorney General of the United States. I want to start by thanking you for acknowledging a moment ago the importance of protecting the rights of the law-abiding. In a country where there are hundreds of millions of guns, one of the most alarming, not to mention unconstitutional things the government could do is to disarm the law-abiding. It would be unfair, it would be fatal to many, it would be contrary to our constitutional system.
When Attorney General Pam Bondi sat before the Senate and repeatedly refused to answer basic questions about Justice Department independence, she wasn't just being evasive, she was demonstrating exactly why her confirmation should terrify anyone who believes the DOJ should enforce law, not political loyalty. Senator Klobuchar's questioning revealed a disturbing pattern. When asked whether she received directions from the White House about prosecutions, Bondi stonewalled. When confronted with Trump's Truth Social post explicitly naming targets for prosecution, she deflected. When pressed about firing career prosecutors, she cited personnel decisions as if purging experienced attorneys was routine housekeeping. This matters because the Attorney General isn't supposed to be the president's personal lawyer. The Justice Department exists to enforce federal law impartially, not to weaponize prosecutions against political enemies or shield allies from accountability. When Bondi refuses to commit to that basic principle, she's telling us everything we need to know about how she plans to run the department. Consider the specifics Klobuchar raised. Trump's public post demanding prosecutions of specific individuals, including a sitting committee member and former FBI Director Comey, wasn't a suggestion. It was a directive posted on social media for maximum pressure. Bondi's response that Trump hasn't said anything he hasn't said for years treats presidential orders for prosecutions as normal political discourse. The firing of career prosecutors tells the same story. Michael Benary, a 20-year national security prosecutor working on cases involving service members killed in Afghanistan, was terminated after right-wing media criticism. His firing wasn't about performance or misconduct. It was about political reliability, sending a clear message to remaining career staff about what happens when you don't align with political priorities. This represents a fundamental corruption of how justice is supposed to work. Career prosecutors and agents are meant to follow evidence wherever it leads, protected by institutional norms that insulate them from political interference. When those protections disappear, law enforcement becomes an extension of political power rather than a check on it. The consequences extend far beyond Washington. When the public loses confidence that federal law enforcement operates fairly, cooperation with investigations declines. When career prosecutors fear retaliation for pursuing sensitive cases, important investigations get shelved. When the Attorney General takes marching orders from political operatives, the entire concept of equal justice under law becomes meaningless. Bondi's evasions weren't accident or oversight. They were calculated refusals to provide the assurances that should be automatic for any Attorney General. Her silence on independence, combined with the documented pattern of political interference and targeted firings, shows us a Justice Department being transformed into exactly what the founders feared: a tool of authoritarian control rather than impartial law enforcement.